Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm going to lead you through about 60 minutes of Hatha yoga. If you're very new to yoga or exercise at all, I know 60 minutes might sound like a lot, but Hatha yoga is slow. It can help you understand the moves that you're getting into. It can give you time to explore what feels right for your body, because not every body is going to look the same when we're doing yoga poses. So it's a great way to begin and see if yoga is for you. And like I talk about on my podcast, it's very good for regulating the nervous system. So if you suffer from anxiety, regulating the nervous system is a great way to deal with some of those symptoms and help ground you in day-to-day life. We're going to begin, and if you can hear the garbage truck outside, sorry about that. I'll try to talk louder. We're going to begin standing. I'm just turning so you can see a profile of me. Take your feet and put them about hip width apart. So basically just right under the hips. You might need to, step heel toe it a little bit if that doesn't work exactly right for you. And have your toes facing the front of your mat. Okay. You might be a little turned out, a little turned in, depending on how your pelvis is shaped, how your body is shaped. But no matter how you're standing, you do want to keep those ankles under the hips and stand up straight. So pull the shoulders back and down, not hard, just so you're not scrunching, which I think a lot of us anxious folks do. And the neck is straight as well. Your spine should feel like it's coming up, even though there's a couple of natural curves here at the top of your spine and certainly around your tailbone. So it doesn't need to look completely straight up and down. You're going to have body parts that stick out here and there, which is totally normal. But you should feel as though the spine is stacked pretty comfortably in a straight position. What I want you to do in this position, this seems like it's pretty easy, right? We're just standing, is play with where you're placing your weight. I personally normally put my weight at the front of my feet and into my thighs. But if I just let myself tip back a little bit, all of the sudden, my knees feel a little bit better and my core turns on, which can be important for day-to-day life, because the stronger your core, the more work you let your core do, including this relatively easy work, the stronger it's going to get and the easier your movements are going to be. So play around with what feels right. And consider whether you can feel all four corners of your feet hugging the mat or the towel or whatever it is you're on. If you'll see over here, I also have a couple of yoga blocks with me today. You don't need to have yoga blocks. You can grab a couple of books or anything that's thick and approximately this size to help you later on. They're not required though. You can do this whole workout without them. All right, getting back into mountain pose. Not only are we thinking about the balance we're striking here in our feet, we're making sure we're pushing from the feet straight up. So even though it just looks like I'm standing still, I'm thinking about my posture. I'm pushing through my feet to make sure that I'm not sinking into my body. And I'm leaned back a little bit further than I would normally naturally be, which immediately engages my core. So from here, let's take a breath in. Reach the hands up, letting the gaze follow them. Exhale, and place your hands back by your side. Bend the knees gently, hands down to the mat, and come into tabletop position. From here, we're going to push back and go into what's called child's pose. You want to separate your knees, touch your toes together, and take your hands in front of you and relax into the mat. This is meant to be a nice stretch for your back. As I'm laying here, I'm pushing my hands backwards and letting my back stretch. And should something need to pop, it usually does. You can also pull for the same effect. And then come back up to your knees and swing your legs around to come into a seated position. If crossing your legs doesn't work for you, you can sit with your legs out straight. You can sit in whatever is comfortable for you. You can also just kneel and sit down on your feet. And if that's a little too harsh, you can take one of your books, flash blocks, and sit on it like so. So pick whatever you prefer. And I'm going to be sitting like this with my left leg in front. Let's take another breath up. And stretch those hands again towards the ceiling. My gaze is following them, but I'm not craning my neck at all. My shoulder blades are down. And I'm reaching through my arms, but I'm not trying to separate them from my body. And then exhale, right hand down on the mat, left overhead. It's letting us stretch out this left side of the body. Notice though that I'm keeping both my hips on the ground as I do this. I'm not coming over like so. And come back to center. Take your left hand, place it on the mat, and bring your right arm up and over. And come back up to center. Let's take another breath. Hands up towards the ceiling. Exhale, twist. Right hand behind you, left hand on your thigh. And I'm just twisting a bit here. I'm not trying to see if I can turn my body all the way around. I'm doing this to work on allow the lymph nodes to give themselves a squeeze, but also to warm up the spine a little bit. So you don't need to twist into a pretzel. You just twist in a way that's comfortable for you. And then come back to center, breathe in, and twist the other way. Left hand behind you, right hand on the left thigh. Then come back to center, take your hands behind you, fingers facing the wall or whatever's behind you, and stretch back over your arms. Let your chest puff proudly towards the sky. Let your head relax. And lean forward over your legs as far as you can go. It doesn't matter if you can't go that far. If you can go super far, you can cross your arms, you can let them lay straight. I'm just looking mostly for a hip stretch. which laying over our legs can let us do. Let's come back up and just switch the order of our legs. And we're only going to do those last two moves like this. So take your hands back behind you, puff the chest out, let the back of the head relax. And then come forward, laying down over your legs, whatever that looks like in your body. Again, this might be a time where a block is a good idea if you need the ground to come a little closer to you. And then let's raise back up. I'm going to spin around so you can see what I'm doing, but you can stay where you are. Again, in a seated position, no matter how you're seated is fine. Take your hands, place them on your thighs or on your knees, and then begin to arch the back slightly. I'm not talking about a full back bend here. Just again, let your head hang, and then scoop the navel in, round the back, and let the head hang forward. Inhale, go back to that arch. And exhale, round the back. Inhale, arch. And exhale, round. Sitting up straight, let's spread our legs all the way long. Move the blocks out of the way. You probably won't need them for at least a couple of moves. And lay all the way down on your back. Today's workout is gonna work the core a bit, the legs a bit. So let's continue with our warm-up by bringing our right leg in. Just giving it a hug. So hands under the thighs, left leg long. And then bring the left leg in as well. Give them both a hug in. Notice that my glutes, my low back are not coming up off the mat. I'm pulling down as far as I can, which is enough for her. But I'm not lifting up my bottom half. And then keeping the left leg in, let's let the right leg lay long. So I am pulling in with my hands and I'm stretching that right leg at the same time, as opposed to just laying here like it looks like I'm doing. Then let's bring both feet to the mat. Might want to grab a block for this or whatever you have around. One is not required, but it's an option. Hands by the side into a T. We're gonna slowly bring the legs towards the left side of the body. You can put them here on a block, or you can let them go all the way if that feels good in your body. No matter what you decide to do with the block, you want to make sure that your right shoulder stays on the mat. So if it starts to come up, you probably want to grab that block and put it under your legs. And for a slightly more intense stretch, you can turn your head and look over your right hand. Then removing the block if you have one, bring the legs back to center. And if you'd like it, place the block on your right side as you let your legs head towards the right. I'm going to let them go all the way down. My low back really needs the stretch on this side. Again, making sure that that left shoulder stays down on the mat. If you need to, put that block underneath your legs. And if you'd like to, turn your head towards the left. Bring the knees back to center, hug them in. And then place them back on the mat. We're going to do another similar move, but add on, or I guess technically subtract. I'll show you what I mean. So arms out to a T. This time I want you to bring the knees in and begin to send them over to the left side, but again, while keeping the right shoulder on the mat. But this time, instead of just letting them relax on the ground, I want you to hold them a couple of inches above the mat. If you need to take a break and let them rest, that's fine. Try to pick them back up a few seconds later if you can. This is getting our core ready to do some work. Right here, the obliques are doing the majority of the work right now. Then inhale, bring the knees back to center and take them towards the right. I'm not sure I've left myself enough room, but let's see. There we go. And then let them hover here as well. And leaving that left shoulder on the ground and turning to the left side, if that feels good for you. Using your core, pull your knees back to center and give them another hug. And then let's roll up to a seated position. I'm going to have you roll over. If this is too difficult, feel free to just separate your legs. And I'm going to roll over onto my knees. And we'll be here in tabletop for a couple of minutes. So in tabletop, we've got our hands and knees down on the mat, feet flat on the floor, back straight. And we're going to take our right hand and bring it forward, and our left foot and bring it back. With an inhale, keeping your neck straight so your gaze isn't really going to follow your hand this time. You can keep it towards maybe the edge of the mat. Bring your right hand and left foot up and let them come down. We're working on balance here a little bit. And anytime we work on balance, we're inevitably working on our core. Because when we're taking these limbs off the ground, it's our core that's having to keep us balanced. Our other limbs can only do so much. But I am pushing through my hand and my knee. And I'm also stretching these raised limbs out, which can help with balance as well. Let's place those down and switch sides. Left hand out, right foot out. Inhale and bring them up. Stretching through the limbs. Exhale, bring them down. Inhale, up. Keeping your gaze down to avoid hurting your neck. Exhale, and down. And when you go both up and down, you want to make sure these are controlled movements. So when we come down, we're not just dropping. We're slowly using our muscles to bring us back to the mat. Inhale. Bring those limbs up. Give them a good stretch each way. Push through your right hand, your right knee, or your left knee, sorry. And then bring your limbs back to tabletop. Good. Let's take our first down dog. Take your hands, fingers wide, into a kind of cupped position. And you're welcome to keep your knees bent this whole time. So push back using your arms. Push you. You can stay here with bent knees, super bent knees, kind of bent knees, or straighten your legs if that feels okay. None of them are preferable, so it's up to you, whatever you prefer. And while we're here, let's pedal our feet out. So right foot down towards the mat, even if you can't get it all the way down, it's fine. The intention of pushing it or pulling it down is going to stretch your calf for you. And then switch, bringing the right heel up, the left heel towards the mat. And switch again. Right heel towards the mat, left heel up. And one more time, left heel down, right heel up. Getting back to where you were at the start of our down dog, whether your knees were bent or straight. Let's take our weight into our left side and bring the right leg back and up. Again, the height here doesn't matter. However high you can get your leg is exactly as high as I want you to get it. So this is where I go. Some people can do full splits here. I'm not one of them. And then bend the knee, bringing it forward, and let the left knee come down to the ground. Take your hands, place them on your right leg, and send the hips down. You might need to bring your right foot a bit forward as you do this to avoid going over the ankle. You want your knee to line up here with your ankle. Just let yourself sit in this stretch. If you're feeling really unbalanced, grab whatever you're using as a block and let it help hold you up. I need this stretch. I didn't realize how bad until just now. And then let's slowly come back, straightening this front leg. Again, keeping the block nearby in case you need some help balancing. And stretch or flex the foot. And then come forward and let's do that low lunge again. Keeping your knees where they are, take your hands interlace them and pull them behind you. Letting your head roll back. Again, we're kind of working on balance here, right? Because it makes it harder to stay upright as we're leaning backwards. Then let go. Place your hands back on your knee. Let's do that one more time, hands behind. And stretch those shoulders. Back to the original stretch. One more move here. Let's take the left hand, bring it all the way down to the mat or onto a block and twist towards the right, letting the right hand come up towards the ceiling. So if you're not using a block, this is how that looks. Take your right hand down to the mat and turn to the left. Your stretch might not look quite as good on this side because it's a little harder to get the left arm back and given the position of the leg. That's fine. We're just stretching. We're not trying out for any kind of yoga competition here. Not that I think that's even a thing. And then bring the left hand down. Send the right leg back. And we'll push back up into down dog. That right leg is sore or a little uncomfortable from what we just did. You can pedal the feet out again. Feel free to also work on the neck while you're here, turning it from side to side, nodding up and down, keeping your knees as bent or straight as you like. And then take the left leg and send it up. And whatever height it is the exact height it should be. Bend the knee, bring it forward. For low lunge on the left side. Sinking the hips down. Make sure you can see my foot. Knee over the ankle. Give those hip flexors a stretch. Gently push the foot into the ground, letting the legs straighten. You can come down or tent your fingers on the mat or grab your blocks. Who knows where the other one is? I think it's back there. Grabbing your blocks and balancing with those. You want to generally keep a micro bend in your knee, even when it looks like my knee is completely straight. There's a teeny bit of a bend there, so I don't lock my joint out. And then come forward again. Using the block or not. Dipping the hips for this lunge. Listening to my house squeak while I sit here. Then keeping the knee where it is, let's take our hands behind our back. Stretch. Let the head just hang. And then come forward back into that hip flexor stretch. If it starts to become too intense at any time, you can always bring your left foot in. Take a little less of a stretch here, dip your hips a little less. Stay where I was. And one more time, take the hands behind the back. Interlace the fingers, stretch the shoulders, the head, come back with a slight arch in the spine. Bring the hands forward for one more moment in this lunge. Take the right hand, bring it all the way down to the mat or to a block. And twist the body towards the left, letting the left hand come up for the body. And twists are great for the spine, great for the lymph nodes. They don't always feel great. My legs are a little tired. And bring the left hand down, placing it on the mat or on a block, and send the right arm up. Bring that down. Send the left leg back to meet the right. Let's go into a quick child's pose. Give our legs a break. So knees wide, toes together, arms in front of the body. Then come back, tabletop. We're gonna bring our right hip down and spin our legs in front of us. Slowly lowering all the way down to the mat. I'm gonna spend a few minutes here, so play with where feels good for your back, your body. Maybe roll the lower back along the mat a little bit. Find a good spot for it. And then we're gonna bring our knees in again, just like we did before. We'll start by giving them a squeeze. And not lifting my glutes up, they're back. They're not up off the floor like so. And my low back is still very much on the ground. Take your hands under your thighs. Inhale and stretch your legs as straight as they'll go. It's fine if they don't go all the way straight. Pointing the toes. You can keep your hands behind your thighs to keep those legs pulled in, or you can bring them to the side. Then exhale, bend the knees back in. Inhale, send them up straight. Exhale, bring them in. We're going to do that a few more times. And as you do this, especially once you get to a point where you're holding your legs up straight, you want to pull your navel in and let your core do a lot of this work. Of course, your legs are working, but the core is what's going to keep everything stable. And then pull the legs back in. One more time. And come up. Mine are shaking. I didn't even work out today yet, other than this, but my legs are shaking. So If yours are too, you're not alone. And then bend the knees, across the ankles, and rock back and forth while I peek at my notes. Oh yeah, okay. Obviously. Place your feet back on the ground, knees bent, hands by your side. We're going to go into a few rounds of bridge, which can be as beginner or advanced as you like. We're going to go pretty beginner here, but I'll show you some additions to the move if you want to try them, but it's certainly not a requirement. So feet pressing down, push into the mat, which should allow your hips to pretty easily come up. If you want, you can put a block under your back here. Let me show you. To give you a little bit of help in this process. And we're just going to hang out here for a few breaths. Right now, your core should be doing some work, certainly your glutes and your quads. Your neck, however, should be very relaxed. We're not using the neck at all. I'm balancing on my shoulders, not on my neck. And then slowly begin to return to the mat. But remember that your spine is precious, so you don't want to just flop back down. You want to very slowly bring your spine and your glutes down to the mat. Okay, let's add on. So inhale, push again through the feet, pushing the tailbone, the hips, the glutes all up. You can stay here if this works for you. If you'd like to add on, push up just past where you are, allowing for just the tiniest arch in your back. And then lower just past the neutral spine, allowing a little bit of a curve here in your stomach. And keep doing that. So small arch, small curve. And I'm doing this very slowly because, again, we really don't want to mess with that spine. These are just pulses to add to the work that our core and our legs are doing, as opposed to needing to speed through this for any reason. And still balancing on my shoulders and not at all on my neck. And then again, roll all the way down to the mat. We have one more move here, but again, you do not have to go past what we've already done. You can keep working with the block if that works best for you. But let's push into our feet, bending our body up, and then bringing the left leg in just a little bit towards the center. If you want to add on only, bring your right knee in and send it up for a one-legged shoulder bridge. This is obviously more difficult to, again, balance, to keep still. And bring the right leg down. Let's let the hips drop briefly. Set our feet back to where they were initially and push back up. This time, Take the right foot in just a little towards the center, bring the left knee in and send it up. You can also, if you want to try the one-legged, but the straight leg is turning you off, you can keep your knee bent here because you're still doing plenty of extra work without having to straighten your leg. So wherever your knee is fine. Feet back down, slowly lower. Pull the knees in and let's roll around on that low back gently again. Grabbing behind your thighs, let's roll up. Forward. Oh, we can't really worry about that, can we? All right. It's this workout is free in part because I clearly have no budget for my hair or makeup. And let's sit up straight with our knees bent. Feet flat on the floor. Keep that back straight like we began at the start of class. Shoulders down and back. Neck in a straight line with the rest of the spine. And then, even though I just said all of that, I want you to start holding onto the back of your thighs. Tuck your navel in towards the spine and let your back roll a little bit. So my back is still straight, but if I'm sitting up straight here, I've brought my torso backwards a bit. So now there's a C curve in my bottom half. Okay? There's no curve in my spine, just in my bottom half. And immediately our core starts to work again. So we're going to sit here just for a second. I told you we were going to work the core and the legs, and we are. This is our final set of moves. When you feel like you're ready, take your hands away from your thighs. Maybe place them next to you. Take a breath in and come back to where you were. You can round your back here. Give your legs a hug. And then let's get back to where we were. Let's add that C curve into our spine. And this time, take our hands next to our knees. Focus on keeping that back straight. Try not to round it. Try not to bring your neck forward to make up for the discomfort that's in your abs right now. And then grab the back of your thighs, pull yourself forward, and bend over your knees. You have a few more versions of this to go. So if you're like, oh, we're good, we're done, we're not. Or we're working towards something a little tougher. But at any point, you can stick with what we're doing, and you can always work on moving up later. Okay, add that C curve with a straight spine. Let's bring our right knee up and set it back down. Left knee up, set it back down. So all of a sudden we're adding even more work to our core because once again, I'm making you unbalanced, which has kind of been the theme of this whole class. Set the foot down. Let's do 2 more rounds of that. And then bend the knees, bring the torso forward, give your legs and back a break. All right. Let's C curve it again, only like 3 more times. Let's try bringing both knees in this time. Okay, so again, you see that there's a curve here, but not in my spine. My knees are up, which is adding weight to the core. My back is straight. And let's add the hands. This is too much. You can always take a break by putting your legs down and then try to bring them back up. Breathe. Let's place our feet down, come forward. And we're going to add the last 2 moves here. So this will be our last little break before we finish. Maybe give yourself a stretch or a twist before we get into the finale of this move. If your hip flexors are killing you, you can stretch your legs out. And I'm not punching hard. I'm just kind of trying to wake them up and get them blood to circulate a little better. Whatever it is you need to do, come back and meet me here with our feet flat on the floor, our back straight, and then that C curve in our bottom half. Pick your right knee up, pick your left knee up, and then send if you can, if it feels okay for your body at this time, send your legs straight and bring your hands next to your legs. This is a full boat pose. It is not simple or especially pleasant, but it is excellent for the core. I've got my thighs together as opposed to my legs separate, which can make it rather more harsh on the back. I'm also only leaning back so far that even though my low back is doing work, it's not where all the weight is. If I try to go back further, it becomes much harsher on my low back. So don't go beyond where you can sustain this move. And then if you're nuts, you can join me here by taking your hands towards your shoulders and then up by your ears, keeping that back straight. And then wherever you are, bring your legs back down to the ground and spread your torso over them. We're done with boat pose, I promise. Sitting back up straight, let's take the right leg over the left and take our left arm around that right leg and twist. So my right hand is behind my body. I'm hugging my right knee in, just twisting my poor low back that I gave all that work to. And then let's switch sides, putting the right leg down, bringing the left knee up, hugging it with my right arm. Left hand behind the body and twist. And coming back to center, let's put some weight in our hands behind us, fingers pointed towards the glutes. Bend the knees, and widening the feet though this time. And we're just gonna windshield wipe our legs from side to side. If you can't get all the way over, it's not important. And then on this final time, as we come over to the right, take your right foot and place it onto your left thigh. It should add a little deeper of a stretch, especially for your low back. You can also do this lying down, which might make it more comfortable. Then let's go towards the right, doing the same thing over here. Left foot, right thigh. Give that low back a stretch. Then let's do one more move before we get into my favorite pose, which is relaxation pose. Let's get into tabletop. Knees wide, toes together. We're going to push back into child's pose. And let the head rest on the mat. And then come forward, back through tabletop, letting the stomach sink down to the mat. Hands underneath the shoulders and push up into cobra. This might be too high for you. You can come down here, here, here. You can go as low as you want or as high as your low back allows. You don't want to push past where your low back is saying no more. Listen to your low back. Wherever you are, let your head hang forward. And then push back again through tabletop. Widen the knees, toes together into child's pose. And come forward, straightening the legs for one more cobra. At whatever height is good for you. But no matter where you are, make sure there's a micro bend in your elbows, again, so you don't lock out your elbow joint. You can feel free to do some neck rolls here. Let's push back to tabletop one more time, and then spinning our legs around, come all the way down onto our back for our final resting pose here. Let the legs spread long, letting them relax however is comfortable. The arms by the sides of the body, preferably with palms up. This final pose is called Shavasana, or relaxation pose. And it can be a little activating for an anxious person, because what I'm going to ask you to do is lay here either with the soft gaze or with your eyes closed, and trust that in 5 minutes, I will tell you time is up. So if you are not ready to trust me with that yet, that's totally fine. You keep your eyes partially open and just attempt to relax without any sound, without your phone in your hand. And since as anxious people, our minds tend to whir in moments like this, try to bring yourself back to your breath anytime you feel yourself drift off into anxious thought. So simply think of, I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. Okay, so eyes opened or closed, you'll hear from me in 5 minutes. wherever you are in your Shavasana, whether your eyes are open, closed. Begin to come back to your body. Maybe move the fingers, the toes, to wake yourself up a bit. Maybe start to roll the ankles, or the wrists. Maybe stretch overhead to release any tension from today's workout. And then when you feel ready, roll over to your left or right side. Take a breath here before we get back into our day. And push up into a seated position, whichever one you prefer. So even though it might not feel like it, that was good work for your nervous system. You can continue to do this workout as many times as you want. It will always be free. You can contact me about doing more together. Whatever you need, we can work out. There's also a bunch of other types of yoga that I'm going to be putting up on YouTube as well. Ones that move faster, ones that move even slower. All of yoga is meant to help with your nervous system. So I highly recommend giving each kind of yoga that I post a try, maybe doing some research of your own to see if there's any other YouTube videos that you like. But no matter whether you continue to work with these videos or someone else's, or you choose a completely different type of exercise, you're doing important things that will help your mental and your physical health. Let's take one last breath together. Jump towards the sky. Exhale and come down. Thank you for working out with me. Let me know in the comments, direct messages, if you need anything else from me or if you have any questions about any of the moves we did today. Bye.